Most of us lock our doors every night. We stash our valuables out of sight and keep our savings in a bank. But in this increasingly digital world, it's getting harder to protect the things we value most, including our privacy. In the past few weeks alone, Target customers became the target of a credit card breach, and hackers stole paychecks from Boston University employees who used direct deposit. Now, as WGBH News reporter Gail Huff tells us, even our medical records depend on software for security.
It looks like we have a list of allergies and a comprehensive list of medications on this patient.
When a patient is rushed to the emergency room with potentially life-threatening symptoms, doctors and nurses know his medical history because it's immediately available on their computer. They're able to quickly determine an MRI isn't needed.
I work here at Tufts Medical Center, and yes, we've received your request.
More than 50 healthcare providers make up the Mass Highway Exchange, which allows doctors, hospitals, and other health providers to share medical records electronically. But already, serious security concerns are being raised.
Well, I don't think that the health records themselves are as secure as they can be. They're certainly not as secure as they should be.
Medical records can reveal previous alcohol abuse, psychiatric problems, HIV infection, and many other conditions an employer might use to disqualify a candidate. Information that could be used to harm someone.
The medical records are the things that define who we are. And so if you lose control of those, other people could either adopt that identity, use that against you, maybe use that, if you're a public figure, that information might be able to be used against you.
Smerdlove cites the example of 1972 vice presidential candidate Thomas Eagleton, who dropped out when it was revealed he'd been under psychiatric care.
You can't change your medical history, so protecting them is really of paramount importance. And we need to be looking at all places where they're stored, not just how they're transferred from doctor to doctor, but also what systems are they stored on? Are they encrypted when they're sitting there? Who has access to them?
An employee at Children's Hospital lost a laptop, and the health records of more than 2,100 patients were compromised. More recent computer breaches at Target and Boston University show the wider vulnerability of technology.
Technology, it always starts with convenience, and security is an afterthought.
Indeed, imagine the potential for abuse if a pharmaceutical company that wants to target a certain drug, let's say for diabetes, they get access to the medical records of all patients who have diabetes. They could circumvent doctors and market directly to the vulnerable patients. So, Emily, you can see how there is a potential for some abuse, especially in the corporate world.
Or in that's an example of pharmaceutical companies. But beyond that, who would really be interested in hacking into your personal medical data? Maybe if it was a political candidate or something, who would want to do it?
Well, you know, some of the things that were raised to me, and that was a question I had as well, who on earth would want my medical records? But in fact, let's say that you have a weight loss company and you need people that are obese. Let's say that you are looking for people that have drug problems because you own a for-profit rehab facility. There are so many opportunities, and mostly I think in the more pharmaceutical edge of things, where there is concern that, yes, mining this type of personal data, medical data, could be problematic.
All right, Gail, thanks for that. All right, well, so in this digital age, are there steps we can take to protect our personal information? How do we know which websites to trust? Chris Eng is here to help answer those questions. He's the Vice President of Research at Veracode, a software security company based in Burlington. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Good to be here.
So I think that a lot of privacy concerns are generational, and my generation seems to be more paranoid. Are you personally, for instance, concerned about it?
I think my generation is fairly paranoid as well. I think to a reasonable degree. We all care about our private information. And look how concerned people get when their credit cards are stolen, for example. And those things are completely disposable. You can get a new credit card overnight.
And insurance.
Yeah, and it doesn't really affect you that much. Now, if you think about the medical information, it's very much tied to you. And it's not as easy to replace your Social Security number as it is a credit card number. So, you know, it's very important to maintain the security and privacy of that information.
Okay, so how do you strike the balance? Because the medical community needs to have access to your records instantaneously. That was very impressive, what we just saw with that diabetes patient, or that patient, I don't know what he had. So how do you strike that balance without then opening the door to some kind of abuse?
Right. I mean, every evolution of technology is kind of a toss-up between security and convenience. You get one of security, and you lose some convenience. one thing that we can do is make sure that there are stronger standards for the security of the software that runs these technologies. Not only does it need to be able to function properly, but it needs to be able to be resilient against attacks and simulated attacks. And I think those standards could probably be stronger and put those manufacturers through more rigor than we are today.
All right, let's expand the conversation. I want to bring in Agnes Chand. She's a computer science professor at Northeastern University and an expert in cryptography and communication security. Welcome, Agnes. So we promised our viewers that we would offer up some websites, some details, some places they can go to know that they can store their stuff, or somehow they can feel more secure about things not being released. But if it's already in a data bank at Brigham and Women's or something, how can any website or other secure firewall help somebody?
So one of the things that we have to think about is that technology itself has been pretty well advanced, and there are a lot of good technological tools that can actually help us in securing our data. I think the biggest concern that we have is actually there are a lot of human errors. Okay, all these tools will not be very effective if the humans who are actually implementing it or using it are not careful. And that is the part that we really have to actually concentrate on, is that how do we make sure the tools are...
All right, but am I like, every man, am I the one who's trying to secure my data, or am I entrusting somebody else to do it for me?
You will have to trust something, and then
that's the rub.
Right, that's the rub. But it's also up to the organization to actually provide that trust or provide that confidence to the users. Okay, they have to be clear as to how the security is being done, what encryption, okay, and also more importantly, how authentication process is being carry out, and who has access. Does anyone in the hospital has access to my data? And if that's the case, then I will be worried.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do you go about, for instance, Chris, storing all your passwords? I mean, I've got the worst system in the world, but I'm too embarrassing to even tell you. But I can't remember any of my passwords. So what should you do to, for instance, store your passwords?
Well, passwords. Actually, there's good solutions for that called password safes. And you can use products that will automatically generate passwords for you and then store them in one place. So then you unlock that encrypted store by remembering one password.
I see.
Right? You remember one that unlocks them all, and then it saves them all for you.
And it comes up on all your devices.
It comes up, yeah. You can sync it across the different devices. So there actually are solutions for that, where you don't have to use the same one every time.
So one of the things, though, Agnes, is that some of these things are accidental loss, like what happened at Children's. I mean, somebody lost a computer somehow or dropped it or whatever happened, and then those records become accessible in a way. I mean, so you can't really guard against that kind of thing either.
Right. So, yes, we are in the paranoid generation. Okay. In general,
I'm really not. I just have to say, I'm not worried at all, but maybe I should be.
Yeah. In general, I think that two major kinds of hackers. Okay, one is actually for fame, the other hacking for financial gain. Okay, now if I was just any common person, and if someone who hacks into my medical records, it's not going to hurt me if I have nothing that people can actually use to guard against me, then I wouldn't worry as much. Okay, I think the major concern is that, say, for example, people who are actually sports celebrities or political celebrity, then I would worry.
I have this sneaking suspicion that Target thing was all a game, but I don't know. All right, Chris, Agnes Chand, thank you so much for coming.